we are going to start with grammar. How important is grammar? Why should you do grammar? Quite often students think that it's not really worth it. Why do we do grammar? But let me tell you one thing. You can do nothing without grammar. Nothing as in, when you want to do your creative writing, when you want to communicate, when you want to frame your answers, not only English, even your other subjects, all of them require grammar. Especially when it comes to tenses, it comes to the types of verbs which are, commonly used in all your subjects. You need to have a concept clarity of all these topics, the main basic topics. I so often, till day, like being a Mumbaiite myself, I have seen people of Surat talk. Their English is something incomparable. By incomparable, I mean the tenses have no, there's no systematic approach. There's no proper framing of sentences. You need to work on that. See, you can wear branded clothes. I have said that earlier even. You can wear branded clothes. You can be in brands top to bottom, head to toe. But if you don't have a branded tongue, you actually don't carry much worth as others. It's not applicable in every sense, but if you are working, if you are an employee somewhere, if you are in a job, you definitely need it. It's not that, theek hai, kaam chal jayega. That's not the point. You need to have it. You need to have a polished tongue. You need to have a branded tongue. And that helps you work wonders. You may be surviving without it, but that gives you additional perks, additional benefits. According to the competition existing in today's market, you definitely have a win over the others. So yes, English grammar does matter. Beginning with that, on that note, here we are beginning with modals. Now modal verbs are one of the 4 types of verbs. To begin with, let me just brush up a bit for you. So verbs, you have transitive verbs. If you remember, we have done that previously, 7th, 8th, 9th, we have been doing that, right? Transitive verbs, intransitive verb, auxiliary verbs, modals. Now, what are transitive verbs? If you remember, when a subject in a sentence has an object, for example, I received a message from my friend. I received what? A message. Now the message is your object. So because I have an object in my sentence, the verb received is a transitive verb. Coming to the next, intransitive verb. If I say the dog barked loudly, the dog barked what? The dog barked whom? I'm not getting an answer to neither of them, right? So in that case, I don't have an object. So the verb barked does not have an object. So in that case, it is an intransitive verb. Now, going further to your auxiliary verbs. Now, auxiliary verbs are different, right? They add to the meaning of the verb. For example, do, is, have. These 3 are known as primary auxiliary verbs. Do becomes do and does, has and have, is, am, are. We need to remember how to use do and does. I'm sure by now it's pretty clear in your minds. Though yet I have children, I have come across students who know that have is present, but has is past tense. Had does not exist only. Well, pretty shocking. Yes, I'm talking of students of 8th and 9th. I have come across such students. They are not even aware do is present. Does, ma'am, that's past tense. Wow. Did does not exist for them. Likewise, you need to have a very good concept clarity when it comes to this, because you definitely cannot say she have a ball pen. 88% of the children I have come across use have for she. She has a ball pen? No, she have a ball pen. So please make sure you watch this very carefully, very attentively and learn it well, because It's not only about your marks, right? This is going to add on to your personality. How? Because you will communicate better, you will lay a better impression when you communicate with anyone. Yeah? So yes, let's move on. So we spoke of auxiliary verbs, that was the third type of verb. Now, moving further to modals, which we are going to do now, and you shall come across it more in depth. So what all are you going to get out of this video? You're going to get your definition, you're going to get the 3 basic rules to follow, the examples of the same, and how to use them. Now, before we move on, let's begin with the definition. Modals, also called modal verbs, modal auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliaries, these are all various names it is called by, are special verbs which behave irregularly in English. They are different from the normal verbs like work, play, visit, eat, drink, sing, dance. They are a little different from those. They give additional information about the function of the main verb that follows it. Function of the main verb that follows it. That means this is not the only one. I'll tell you further. Let's talk of the different examples that you come across, modal verbs. Can, could, a very easy way to remember, can present, could past, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must, dare, and ought to. Now, quite often we tend to forget which are they. So it's a very nice way to remember this, just make it into pairs, right? Can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must, dare, ought to. You have another 3 which you need to really know. Now, how are we going to use this? You will get to know. But before that, we need to understand that there are 3 rules to follow when you use the modal verbs. Still, before I continue these rules, I just want to give you a little more clarity on the topic. So if I tell you, I can swim very well. Now, just let's visualize that sentence. I can swim very well. Now, can, swim. Okay? Now, swim here is your main verb. Can is the modal. So, what does can do? What does the modal verb do? It supports the main verb. It cannot stand on its own. A modal verb cannot stand on its own. Right? So, I can swim very well. I can very well. Makes sense? No. It needs a main verb. So, I can swim very well. So, the modal verb is helping the main verb swim. Right? It has no existence of its own. It only supports, it only helps the main verb. So, these are how modal verbs are used. Right? So, a little bit clarity, still further we will see. Now, use the modal verb as is. It is the way it is. You have to use, like we already saw, can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should. So, the way they are, you have to use them as they are. Don't change its form and turn into present, future or past forms. Don't add anything to it. You can't add s, ed or ing. Now, let's take this again, the same example, can. Right? Can I say I can swim or she can swim? No. Can I say she can swim? No. It sounds wrong, obviously. She canning swim? Not even possible. So, we take the modal verb as it is. Now, why this rule has come to you? Because quite often there are verbs, like I told you of the auxiliary verbs, do, does, has, have, is, am, are. They change, right? Those are changeable. They are auxiliary verbs. These are modal auxiliary verbs. Those change. It's like I do, you do, she does her homework. Right? So, that became does. Why? Because the subject changed to she. Alright, that took a change. But here in this case, modals do not change. They remain in the same form. Here's the correct sentence. John can swim. Right? That's how it is. It's a very, again, same thing. Swim is your main verb and can here is the modal. Not correct. John cans swim. Is it possible? No. Like we just spoke about it. He might go to sleep. He might. Sounds odd, doesn't it? Remember one more thing. I'll give you one more very good tip in grammar. Whenever you have fill in the blanks, you will be getting MCQs, right? Your grammar is always there in the form of MCQs. Whenever you get an option, even if you get 3 options or 4 options, you know what you should do when it comes to fill in the blanks? You should read the sentence with every option. The 4 words you have, the 4 words you have, the 4 options, use every option in the blank and read your sentence. Why? Because the one which is correct will sound correct. The 3 which are wrong will sound wrong. You can try it out. It's a very good tested technique. Let's go further. She will go to Spain next month. Definitely not right. We should not change that modal verb ever. Leave it as it is. Don't even bother to change it. Now, when we spoke initially, if you remember the examples that we spoke of, now we shall go in depth how and when should you use the application, the usage of that modal verb, in which situations. Now, just let me ask you one simple question. So, can I say if you are asking me, you will say, can I come in, ma'am? Generally, that's a sentence the students all use. Can I come in, ma'am? Let me tell you, you are absolutely wrong when you do that. Why? Because when a student is asking a teacher, you are taking formal permission. You are taking permission formally. So what will you say? You will say, may I come in? Can, you will tell your friend. Someone of your level, maybe your sibling, maybe your friends, maybe your sister, your brother. That's an informal level. But can, if you tell me, as any teacher for that matter, is wrong. You have to say, may I come in? So talking of this, likewise, I'm going to guide you through how you can use these different modal verbs, and they need to be used in the correct manner, in the correct way. So if I talk of the first one, can. Now there are different possibilities, there are different ways in which it can be used, very clearly given to you along with an example. So the moment you read it, you're through with it, you're sorted. Now, how do you use it? The ability to do something in the present. In the present. So you substitute the form to be able to. Can means you are able to do something. So I can speak English. Yes, that's something that is, you do something in the present moment. Permission to do something in the present. Can I go to the cinema? Again, this is at your informal level. Request. Can you wait for a moment, please? Again, now you see can is being used in different forms. It is not just the ability, I can sing, I can swim, I can dance. No. There are many other ways can be used. Can be used. Offer. I can lend you my camera till tomorrow. Suggestion. Can we visit grandpa at the weekend? Possibility. It can get very hot in Rajasthan. Now you see the different ways. So it is the ability, it is permission, it is request, offer, suggestion, possibility. There are different ways you can use this one modal verb can. Let's look at the next one. Could. Now remember, could is your past tense of can. So remember I told you the pairs can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, and so on. Now the ability to do something in the past. I could speak English. I could dance very well. When I was young, I could dance very well. You know, if your grandma telling you the same thing, I could do it, then I was able to do it. Can, could, able to, right? So I was able to do it. Permission to do something in the past. Now here you are going to be, I could go to the cinema. All this is pertaining to the past. Polite question. Could I go to the cinema, please? Now, when you are talking to someone, it's a polite request or a polite permission, we use could. So, you see how it differs. Polite request. Could you wait a moment, please? Now here, this is out of respect. You have to make sure that it is used as could. Polite offer, I could lend you my car till tomorrow. Polite suggestion, could we visit grandma at the weekend? Possibility, it could get very hot in Montana. Now do you see how differently it is used? You can see it's not necessary when you will have fill in the blanks, we will be solving ahead. Quite a few times that one blank can be used, different modal verbs can be used. I mean 2-3 options are applicable, it all depends. We will see as we solve it. Coming to may. Now may is possibility. It may rain today. Permission to do something in the present. May I go to the cinema? You are taking permission. Polite suggestion. May I help you? Right? So there is different way. Now if I talk of the next one, may and might, what is the difference between the two? Now look at this. Might, it is less possible than may. It has a very less chance. Now may is also a chance, it is a possibility, it may rain. But might is extremely less chance. So it is less possible than may. What it is said is generally might is the past tense of may, right? It is used in the same context. Hesitant offer, might I help you? You're not sure. So might I? You're not definite whether you really want to. Okay? So yes, it might rain today. Moving further, must. The word itself is telling you, you must do it. Yeah? So what does it talk about? It is a force. It is necessity. I must go to the supermarket today. You have to. Possibility, you must be tired. Quite often we use that, right? You must be tired. Advice or recommendation, you must see the new film with Brad Pitt. Now, it is something, it's a recommendation, it's an advice, it is also a force or a necessity. You must complete your homework, you must submit your assignments. Quite often your teachers tell you this, don't they? So it is a force, it is a necessity. Coming further, must not or may not. If you are talking of it in the negative terms, it is a prohibition. Must is a little stronger, yeah? You must not or you mustn't. Now here T is, though we write it, but it is silent when we speak it. So you mustn't work on dad's computer. You definitely should not. You may not work on dad's computer. What is the difference telling you? Must is stronger than may not, right? We need to keep these, technical tips within us so that whenever we speak it in the right manner. Need not. Something is not necessary. A very common thing, we use it pretty often. I needn't go to the supermarket. We are going to the restaurant tonight. So I don't need to go there. I am going to the restaurant instead. Ought to. Very rarely used, but for fluent speakers, very commonly understood, right? Ought to. What do you mean by ought to? Now, ought to actually tells you about your duties, your moral duties. If I give you just 2 sentences, you ought to obey your elders. You ought to respect your elders. What is it reminding you? It is reminding you about your duties, something that you should do. In a particular manner, you should behave. So, ought to is all about it. It is an advice. You ought to drive carefully in bad weather. Something it is talking about, guiding you through that you shouldn't do this. Ought to and should is somewhat similar. It's an obligation. You ought to switch off the light when you leave the room. Something that you should be doing, right? This is how it tells you, ought to. And shall. Shall I carry your bag? Suggestion. You're like literally making a suggestion. Should I do it? Shall I do it for you? That's a suggestion. Okay. So, shall I carry your bag? I shall go to the market. Remember this. Now, bring this, listen to this very attentively. Lend your ears, please. Shall I carry your bag is a suggestion. I shall go to the market. You see how it is being used? In this case, here right now what they're pointing out is, shall I carry your bag? It's a suggestion. That's how shall is used. Should, advice. You should drive carefully in bad weather. Again, something similar to ought to. You should. It is telling you whether you really should do it or not. It is actually advising you. Obligation, you should switch off the light when you leave the room. Like I already told you, should and ought to are on similar grounds. They are from the similar family. Now, will. When I talk of will, it makes a wish, request, demand, order. It is less polite than would. If you remember when we spoke of could also was a polite request, a polite suggestion, right? A polite permission. Likewise, will is not the same. It is less polite than would. That is very formal. Will you please shut the door? It is sounding like, very demanding type. Will you please shut it? It is a prediction or an assumption. I think it will rain on Friday. It will, it might. Again, like I told you, there is a possibility where 2, 3 modal verbs can come in the same blank. Promise, I will stop smoking. It gives you a definite thing. I will definitely do it. Yes, I will be the topper. You're very sure about it. There's a definite thing. That's the reason you're saying will. Spontaneous decision. Can somebody drive me to the station? I will. It is a spontaneous decision on the spot. Immediately, it's a decision and you say, yes, I will. Habits. She's strange. She'll sit for hours without talking. Apostrophe double L, short form of will. So will is there. The word does not very clear there, but yes, it exists. She will or she'll. She'll sit for hours without talking. That's a habit, right? That was your will. Coming to would. Wish, request, it is more polite than will. You remember we just spoke of this when we were doing will. Would you shut the door, please? Now that sounds more polite than will you shut the door? Obviously, that does not. Would you shut the door, please? That's more of respect. Habits in the past. Sometimes he would bring me some flowers. Now that is something which used to happen in the past. Would. Alright. So the past tense of will. Use the base form of the verb after a modal. Now, the verb that you are using after the modal, like we already discussed, your modal is followed by the main verb. Now, that main verb needs to be in its base form. What do we mean by that? Let's look at it. Don't use to or the full infinitive verb to. So, to swim. So, he can to swim, not possible. Here's the correct sentence. Clara might join them. Okay, she might join them. Not correct. Clara might to join them. So basically you don't have to use the word to. You have to use the verb in its base form. You must to finish your dinner. Again, it's wrong. The to is not required. You must finish your dinner. You should not to smoke. You should not smoke. The to is wrong. They can to stay with us this summer. To stay, not required. The to. We would not to arrive in time for his speech. So you see very clearly with all these examples out there, you can actually find out the to is not required. So we use the verb in its base form, the way it is. Now, this is quite a common error. So be careful about the to there. Make sure not to use the full infinitive form to join after the word might, will, should, may or can. After all the modals, we do not use to. Just use the base form of the verb, which is join. You can say any of these correct sentences. Now look at them. Clara could join us. Clara might join us. Clara must join us. Clara should join us. They can stay. They can come. They can leave. Just take note, there is no to after the modal. Here the modal is can, there is no to. Here the modal is could, no to. Might, no to. Must, no to. Should, no to. Right? So you see the modal is not followed by to, it is followed by the base verb. This is one of the very important rules which we need to keep in mind. Now, if you need to use modals in the negative form, of course. Now, if it's a verb, it will be negative, it will be interrogative, it will also be positive. That's affirmative. So you need to make sure that your format, the formation is perfect. Then use only not after the modal verb. If you want to make your sentence, if you want to negate your sentence, if you want to make your sentence negative, you will use not after the modal verb. Don't add any extra words anymore. So don't use words like isn't, doesn't, don't, won't, wasn't, aren't. We are all aware these are contractions. Is not, does not, do not, will not, won't is will not, was not, are not. So when you contract them, this is the formation. So you're not going to use any of this. All that you have to do is add a simple not after the modal. So here you go. You should not drink too much. Now, which is the modal here? Should. Where is the not? After the modal. So this is exactly what we are doing. We want to make it negative, so we add a not after the modal. So you should not drink too much. That's a perfect sentence. What about the incorrect sentence? You don't should drink too much. Wrong. It's absolutely wrong. We cannot use this. We are only supposed to put a not after the should, which is here. I don't can swim. Now here can is your modal. Don't is not supposed to be used. We don't could call him. Again, that's wrong sentence. It's absolutely wrong framing of sentence. So notice in the correct sentence that not came after should. We already saw that. You may have learned in other grammar lessons the words such as wasn't, isn't, don't, aren't, and you are probably excited about using them in your sentences. Are you? Well, but using them with modals is wrong. You may be excited, go ahead and use them, but use them in the right manner. Remember, though there is one exception, it's with the modal verb have to. Now we also have to as the modal verb, very exceptionally used, but yes, we do use it. If you use this in the negative form, you need to say you do not have to go there. So basically, previously we were putting the not after the modal verb. Here we use it before. But with other modals, you only say you could not, you might not, you ought not, you shall not, and so on. You can see that not always comes after the modal verb. We already saw quite a few examples. I'm sure you must have got this point absolutely clear by now. Now, we came across, we understood, we went to the depth how each one is used. Let's give it a try here. Now let's bring whatever we have learnt, the theory part, let's put it into practice and see how well we have understood. Or else you will have to watch the video again. Yes? Alright, here we go. So fill in the blanks with the correct modals given in the brackets. God is great and we dash be grateful to him. I had already instructed right in the beginning of the video that we should use both the options and then check which one sounds correct. I will do the same. God is great and we should be grateful to him. God is great and we would be grateful to him. Obviously, should sounds better, right? So yes, we should be grateful to him. We dash do our duty and leave the reward in the hands of God. We might do our duty or we should do our duty. I get it right. Should. Yes, we should do our duty and leave the reward in the hands of God. Ultimately, God dash help us. Ultimately, God might help us. Ultimately, God will help us. What is more definite? Will. Might, He's always there to help us. There are no chances that He doesn't. He never does that to any of us. So He will help us. We dash leave everything to God. We might leave everything to God. We should leave everything to God, or we may leave everything to God. Of course, we should leave everything to God. He is the one who takes care of all of us. Wonderful if you have scored all your points. There's one more type. Now remember, 6th, 7th, 8th, we had fill in the blanks. You had to, edit your sentence and stuff. But now, when it comes to 9th, 10th, what you have to do is, quite often it is editing and omission, right? You have to get used to this. It's very important. So for the same, you have to read that entire para and make the changes. So let's go on. There is a missing word in each line of the following passage. Mark the place of the missing word with a slash and write the correct word. Write the word before and after the word in your answer sheet. So yes, when you write it down there in your books, please do the needful. Now, here, see, the first one has been done for us. Can you see that? People need not ask, if we read it without, people not ask a writer why he writes his biography. So when you have something like this, editing and omission, my suggestion to you is always read the entire paragraph. Now right now here it may be just modals, but you have all kinds. You have prepositions, you have conjunctions, you have tenses, you have the verb forms. You have all sorts coming in such types. So what you should do is, ideally, you should read the entire paragraph once as it is with all the flaws, and then get to understand what is required. It goes way faster, and most importantly, it goes accurate. All right, I'm giving you 2 minutes. You can pause the video, you can look at the question, read the question and try to solve it, right? Go ahead. I shall do it now for you, along with you. So I guess you have done it. It's there in your books. Please check. If you haven't, again pause the video and make sure you do it, and then get your answers and see that you are correct. All right, so here we go. People need not ask a writer why he writes his biography. They know, they need to know. Now they know, they need to know. They need to know that every life will be interesting if properly presented. Every life will be interesting if properly presented. So now you see every line has a blank. You need to write your words before and after. Moreover, we learn many things if. So again, moreover, we will learn many things if we want to from a great life. It may not be necessarily the life of a great leader that will inspire us. That will inspire us. I hope you have got them all right. If you haven't, you need to practice a lot more. Please do so. Grammar is just like maths. The more you practice, the more you have your concept clarity. The concepts are all clear, they are crystal clear, and you will never make a mistake. Remember, every mark counts. So don't take this very lightly. It is not time pass. It is something that will fetch you marks. It will also fetch you and add to your personality. And with that note, let me tell you, you can do it. You should do it, and you will do it. Yes, I believe in you. So yes, keep watching and keep learning.